Johnston, Patrick, he covers the Canucks.
So, is this related? Like, Earp played 9 before 9, and I see J-Pat making jokes about 9 on 9.
Yeah.
Does this relate to Matthew?
No, different experiences.
Okay.
You see, bogeys happen for most people. That's why
That's
bogey
all.
juice
If I
makes
ever
more sense.
played, that's all I would be. So bogey
Yeah.
juice would be great for me.
For the record, I sunk an 18-footer for birdie 2 on number 8 yesterday.
Attaboy. Okay, well done.
Offset.
Complete opposite.
It was all downhill from there.
Okay. Well, I mean, yeah.
Canucks had a couple big wins too, but they had a lot of bogeys as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Not a good year, if you'd heard.
What were you surprised Rutherford answered the question on Hughes as he did, and what do you think he was hoping to achieve with the answer?
Well, I think he was speaking realistically. No, I wasn't surprised, to be honest. I mean, if there's one thing we've learned about Jim Rutherford, it's that he will, in general, deal in the truth. It was a truthful answer. It was like, listen, we know it's a challenge, and we are going to do everything we can to make this happen. So, no, I wasn't surprised. I mean, there was an element, I think he knew right away, as soon as he made the Hughes brothers kind of quip, that he might get himself into trouble. Now, I guess he didn't. And I wish managers were able to talk a bit more loosely in those terms. Oh, my God, he's interested in other teams' players?
Yeah, that player's good.
Yeah. How do trades happen? But no, I think he was saying, listen, we know it's there. It's there. We're not going to hide from it. Just as they basically talked about how they were with Tocchet. This is the biggest contract the Canucks will have ever signed with a coach. We think it's a good offer. Now, they're staging themselves. I mean, you perpetually go, they are framing themselves, like with the Willander situation. Are they framing themselves, or priming people for the opposite to happen? Sure. But he certainly speaks from his own truth, and he's not the first manager to do that. He's just better at it than his predecessor.
Well, does anybody else get the sense that? Are you familiar with that scene in A Few Good Men? Tom Cruise has Jack Nicholson on the stand. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. That sort of dynamic is playing out between Rutherford and this fan base, huh?
A little bit.
Like, the public thinks they want the truth, and then he gives them the truth, and I'm not sure the public can handle the truth.
They know. Of course they know. It's a big thing in front of them. It's kind of everything. I'd rather they talked about it than not. There were a lot of... The problem was that there were so many elephants in the room to be talked about. We didn't actually end up talking about all of them. We only had so much time.
So many elephants, like a big top.
Our poll question today, our Suri Mitsubishi poll question, is asking if the Canucks are better off just running back the core or trading away Demko and Pettersson in particular. I mean, you could theoretically attach Hughes to this poll question as well, but
right.
Given the uncertainty in any trade, given what you have seen out of Demko and Pettersson in the past, what's your gambling, feeling like on that, and just rolling the dice and saying we know that it's in there somewhere versus trying to bail on the contracts now?
Let me read you a headline from June 7th, 2024. Canucks. This is a big summer for Elias Pettersson, Rick Tocchet says.
Yeah.
Like, it's been a topic for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you think about that and you think about essentially them saying the same thing again, I do think a lot about the question of the core and where they're going to go with this. And there is an immense amount of frustration with essentially where this core finds itself or doesn't find itself, I suppose is a better way to put it, and why that took place. And I mean, I've talked about it before, but to reiterate, there is frustration level, I think, of sort of how, or not frustration, but there's sort of a reality of here that they feel is that you look at the players that were essentially the core players, the young star players that were here when Rutherford, Alvin, and then Tocchet arrived, and how they had been handled or not pushed more than they could have been or should have been before they arrived. And that in many ways, they were all handed Porsches and all said, go drive wherever you want. And there was no sort of ongoing sort of how to drive this car best kind of thing, and how much better you can drive it if you only do this, this, and this. And they are now, I think, down the road dealing with, they feel, the consequences of a lack of that. I mean, and you look at, I mean, we talked about Vasily Podkolzin, he's an example of that. Niels Höglander has found his way, I think, to a degree, but still didn't have a great season. Like, the way that they've had to keep reconnecting, and then as the question was put, does any of this get through to Pettersson? That's a question that they, I'm sure, are considering themselves as they look at the next 2 months ahead of no move kicking in. Like, is this actually going to hit? Because last year they said it needed to hit, and clearly it didn't. And that's not a new thing. So
yeah, I mean, the thing about Pettersson is, what they're saying is, it's not just about getting stronger. It's not just about summer training.
Yeah.
It's not just about practice habits and preparedness. The overarching term there is commitment. It's about commitment. And that is a very difficult thing to get overcome, right? And so I think the next couple of months here before the draft, and what they observe of Elias, his interactions with the club while he's at Rogers Arena, I think those are going to play a very large role in how willing Alvin is to trade him. And as we know, the GM is keeping his options open.
So the question I have for both of you then, why is there no commitment? Is that just who the guy is, or is that because of the situation that he finds himself in? Because when he was, flirting with all sorts of award honors after the 100-point season,
yeah,
I didn't hear that being blasted as loudly as it is now.
I think two things. What Patrick just said about getting the keys to a Porsche and go on, have your fun, was how he was approached and handled early by previous management groups and coaches. And then secondly, this was the first injury. This is the first time where he couldn't just get by on talent alone, especially with the league getting faster. I watched the Stanley Cup playoffs and the puck movement and the skating, everybody being able to skate, everybody. The league gets better and better every year, and I don't think Elias has kept up with the Joneses. That is my answer. But what says you, Peach?
Well, no, you're onto something. I mean, if you think about the answer to the question I put to him on Friday, about, I basically said, what can be done? What changed for your team year to year? You guys were really good at getting inside last year, getting to the high danger areas. It didn't happen. Why was that? No. And he sort of talked around it, but in the end, he also admitted that I think there was an awareness that they got scouted out to a degree. And it wasn't until late in the year that they've reset themselves. And you think about the way Tocchet himself changed the way he talked. He talked a lot earlier in the year about needing to get inside, what the far guy was doing. But by the end of the year, he was talking a lot more about what his centermen were doing and how they were attacking the zone and what they would do when they get to the blue line. And a lot of it became about essentially changing your angle once you've gained the zone. And for whatever reason, that had not been a point of emphasis earlier in the year. And that was on Miller, that was on Pettersson, especially. Once Filipino showed up, I mean, Filipino obviously is a much faster skater than anybody else the Canucks had. But the way he attacked the middle of the ice was exactly the way the Canucks had been having success last year. And in many ways, that's where Pettersson needs to get back to be successful NHL player. And the preparation thing obviously is big. It is all a bit weird, Jim Rutherford talking about, well, he needs to be better at his detail, blah, blah, blah. I mean, a fantastically diligent defensive player. Like, he is a guy that has, I think I mentioned before, I once asked him this, and he said, well, I don't like not having the puck. He back checks to get the puck back. He's very good at it. But it became a problem, what was happening through the neutral zone, what was happening once they gained the blue line. And he really struggled with that, and we could all see it. And the fact that, the other thing that stood out was Harm asked him about the shot velocity, the skating velocity, the decline in both for so much of the season. And PD didn't really want to answer it. So that remains a mystery why that happened. Obviously, there was an element. I do think there was an element in terms of leg strength. We've talked about that before. in terms of just accelerating. He was a fast skater not just 2 seasons ago, right? It's not like, he's not a graceful athlete, but he has been a powerful athlete. He has done all the things that we are talking about. We are not talking about these things as if they're things he's never done before. He skates fast, he shoots hard, and he did very little of that this year. And whether that was about preparation or simply confidence or not understanding how he was being defended, he needs to fix all of those things probably to have a dominant season again next year.
The question is internally, does he have the pride, do you think, to say, I got to prove all these effers wrong here. I'm like I can do this. I'm going to find the right people. Like, he has all the money in the world now, Patrick.
Yeah.
He could hire trainers, physio, all that. Like, is he going to have that? Oh, they have no idea what's coming here. Like, I would want to prove everybody wrong, especially if I had all the resources. I hope that he has that.
Yeah, and to me, it's more than anything, it's coming down to sort of understanding the why, and sort of how people react to you. And I think that is something he struggles a bit with. Like, there is definitely an element of communication in terms of how he appreciates and understands things and understands people and what people's motivations are and why they're coming at him. And you look at the sort of the frustrations that Tocchet has clearly expressed in terms of what practice is for, what we are trying to accomplish in practice, as well as the sort of mental preparation of it. I mean, think back to last year when he was struggling. There was a comment at one point where Tocchet referenced Alex Hodgins, their mental performance coach, like basically indicating he thought there's a guy to talk to help you get yourself through this.
Yeah.
And I think the implication was in many ways that there was he wasn't falling through that. I mean, he is an unconventional lone wolf person. We know this, right? And finding solutions to problems. He is not, I don't think, conventional in how he does those things. And I think that will continue to be a challenge for this team to connect with him on. I think that's just the simple truth. He is a unique personality. I don't think there's any doubt about that. So it comes back to connecting with him about these issues in a way that he will appreciate. And we'll see if that works. I mean, the proof literally is going to be in the pudding with him next year, wherever he is.
What are you hearing on Tocchet?
Well, I mean, what we knew is he was going home to Vegas on Saturday. He was planning to be back today. There's still meetings. There's still planning to happen. Obviously, Rutherford indicating he thought that Tocchet would probably make his decision this week. People ask me, I've been kind of going just sort of 60-40 no, just because it's hard for me if I'm sitting him, especially now that Rutherford said we are not going to use our option on him. He's either back on a long-term contract or he's not back at all. The equation now for Tocchet clearly is that what are the opportunities out there? I can look and see the teams that currently have openings and figuring out what other teams might yet have openings or be interested in bringing him in. So I just sort of look at those doors that are available and say the odds that he will be interested in one of those doors seem reasonable. But I'm not ruling out a return. I think there's enough in this challenge that intrigues him. But the challenge is clearly different. As Rutherford did, we're no longer, we are a team in transition, Rutherford said. And so that's realistic. And then there's that whole Quinn Hughes question, right? So what are you signing up for? Are you signing up for just 1 year Quinn Hughes and then you start worrying about he's going to go? Like, what is next year going to look like? What is the year after that going to look like? And those are going to be hard answers for the Canucks no matter what, because even if they do trade Tom Willander and try to bring in a center for him, who is that center? Who is that player? What does this lineup look like? If you let Brock Besser walk, how are you replacing? You do need wingers who can score goals. Yeah. Brock Besser in his career has scored at a better rate than Nikolai Ehlers, for instance. There's a stylistic difference between those two players, but the results are the same. So, what is this roster going to look like, and how well can they deliver on it? And I think that becomes the question.
How much of Tocchet's decision do you think pivots on Elias? Like, do you think he's thrown his arms up on Elias, and that if they plan to keep Elias, then Rick wants to go elsewhere?
Well, yeah, I do think I'm sure that's a large part of it. And can I get this guy to drink from the water? Like, is this going to be where I think it needs to go? And I'm not sure he's convinced of that. There's been we can see the frustration, and in the end, his number one center, he was supposed to be his number one center, and he didn't play like one. And you can't help but sit back and go, wow, he got his contract and I don't think Pettersson consciously did that, but there is that character question and the core question, and it comes back to all that. He is, there's still Pettersson and Hughes and Demko and Besser to a degree, right? Like, that is the core that was here when they arrived, and as I've said, they've looked at how they were handled and how things happened and where things went, and that is the large part of their problem today, is what went before, and there's no easy fix to changing that core at this point, even given who's left.
So in large part, you believe Rick Tocchet won't come back if he's sure that Elias Pettersson will be here?
No, I don't think so. I think it's more complicated than that. I think it comes back to what he thinks the player is going to be able to do this summer. What is he, where is he going to be next fall? And what
would it be so unconventional as to have another meeting with all three parties, management, Pettersson, and Tocchet, like to really?
No, why not?
No
meetings.
But would they do it? That makes sense to us, but would they do that? Do you think?
Well, at this point, Pettersson is under no obligation to do something like that, right? No. It would behoove him to do it, but I think that has been an issue, is that the obvious things have not always proven to be so obvious to him. So
going back to the Miller thing too, it feels like that was the case there too, right?
I still don't. I'm not sure really what. Despite what was said, there's just so much unknown, that I think that is left out there, that I think is still it's a difficult topic to really try to point any fingers in anything.
To know for
Yes.
sure. Yes.
Lastly, why are they doing Tom Willander like this?
I don't know, man. Like I said, when things, I started realizing things were going haywire. 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago? I can't even remember now. I've lost track. 10 days ago? Whenever that was. When did the season end?
The season ended 1 week ago.
I know. No, I know.
8 days ago.
I know. There's already. My initial, I was like, I think they're going to trade him. That was just my gut. I don't have any sort of insight on that particular. But then Rutherford goes and admits, or one of them admitted. They both admitted that to get the center, to get the top player they know they need, they're going to have to make a trade. They don't have a lot of options, right? Like I think they were close to, actually, there was a sequence where they were close to trading Philip Hedl, or as a potential chip to move to get a different center, but he's dealing with concussion. He's a trade. I don't know really. He's a trade chip. Like, Willander is one, Lekkerimäki is another, but they need Lekkerimäki to hit at this point. So I don't think they're trading him. I don't think it would be smart. They certainly went into the season thinking they could trade their own first rounder, because I think they thought they were going to be in the playoffs going deep, and it would be a pick in the 20s. But I don't think they can trade, even though their pick is 15 or whatever. Like, I don't think that's a
15th in a boring draft.
It's a boring draft. I get that, but they don't have any guys.
No, it's true.
So they need to bring in some guys, and they need some young guys. And there's, every week it feels like I detail a new team that is in the playoffs, and it's not that they've entirely been built in the draft, but they have key guys they found in the draft, and the Canucks need to find a few more key guys in the draft in the years to come. So moving their first, I suppose, will help you, but geez Louise, that's
what's the biggest piece there? The first
Rodney
pick,
Peter to pay Paul at that point. Sorry,
what's got the most value?
Again.
What's got the most value? The first round pick, Lekkerimäki, Willander. I mean, maybe Elias Pettersson, who put up. Who's got the most?
I can't imagine them trading
Value.
Elias Pettersson at this point. Like the player has arrived. There's huge value in him. They like how he plays.
Got to give to get.
Yeah,
I get
Gotta
it.
give
But
to get.
let me push back and ask you this. Okay, there's huge value there. I don't think he's ever going to be an offensive defenseman.
Sure.
Right? And for the time being, he's playing third pair minutes behind
Yeah.
Hughes. And so how valuable is that?
I
Is
well,
that
I mean,
not
it's
something you
fair.
can replace
You're absolutely fair.
relatively?
Like, that's, yeah.
Like if he's the apple in other teams' eye and you're getting a top 2 center.
Okay, yeah,
I love
sure.
D-Petey too, but you've got to make that deal.
Yeah.
Well, it wouldn't be on its own, but
No, but
No,
okay,
you have
Matt,
to add to
listen.
him.
If he carries enough weight in a trade that he can get you that, and you're not having to give him much more, great. I do think that in terms of his playability plus the contract, the way he fits in the cap, the fact that they did think about him being a possible Hughes partner, like there's a lot there.
and
But you're
piss and
right.
vinegar, which they don't have a ton of,
and the
right?
piss and vinegar. But you're also right. Like don't get too excited about your own guys. Like if there's something you can sell high on him, like realistically, I mean it's maybe a bit different from selling high on a goalie, but like there is that element of, do you actually know he is this? And you don't. He's played 25 games in 24 whatever it is games in NHL. Like he impressed in them, but a lot of guys step into the league as rookies, do well, and then turn out to be Ben Hutton. You know, like I think he's better than I do think there's more hockey smarts there. But Ben Hutton in the end has had a nice little career, and he's a useful number 8 guy in Vegas. But that said, like you're looking to find guys that are going to become long. You are looking to find Chris Tanev, right? And you hope that is what Pettersson proves to be.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot, like, to cite someone we know, hope is not a plan, and you cannot hope that Elias Pettersson is going to be that guy. You have to know that he's going to be that guy. Otherwise, yes you should be willing to trade him.
Mm-hmm.
But to answer the original question, like I think of those options, I do think Tom Willander is probably the highest value.
Yes.
I mean, look, he's been picked to the World Championships,
Yes.
right? Like
So,
Sweden thinks highly. He had a good season with BU. He did not set himself up to be, oh my God, this guy's ready to play massive minutes in the NHL. He's not. I don't think he's Brock Faber, but he's a guy that is trending well, and there's a lot to like about what he does.
What I think Canucks fans have to wrap their heads around, with Rutherford saying we've got to do better than that, than the available free agent centerman. So if you're going to do better than a Tavares, a Duchesne, a Bennett, someone like that on the trade market, it is probably going to cost you 3 of Willander, Lekkerimäki, your first round pick, D-Petey.
Yeah, it's something.
Maybe it's 2 with some extra sugar, like apart from those 4 assets. But
maybe it's 2 in Garland.
But yeah, like
Yeah.
I think a third significant piece has to be in your frame of mind and in your expectation. If you're acquiring a number 1 or number 2 center, with term, not coming off major injury, not coming off a dreadful season, like the plug and play number 1 or 2 center is going to cost you something huge. Like that.
And just for the
unless
sake of
you're willing to
argument-
take a bet. Like last year, Dubois was available. Washington made a bet on him, and they did
Yeah.
pretty well. If you can find that sort of trade, okay. But if you're going to do better than the available free agents, wow, that is a hefty price tag.
And if you are treating a guy like Garland, like, okay, who you bring, you need guys to play with your top centers, right? Like, I get why you would consider moving Garland, but you also, and it comes back to the Besser question. Like, you still need guys to put the puck in the net, and those guys put the puck in the net. So what are you going to find out there that's, I suppose stylistically you're going to find a different player. But in terms of results...
Well, I mean, to address that particular hypothetical, I mean, you get back to the fundamental building blocks of a roster, and that is down the middle and on D and in goal. And you're prioritizing the centers and going, we are really weak on the wing. But if there's anything that you can do to find goals, it's finding wingers. Like the wingers are do grow on trees more than anything else. So maybe that's still a thing worth pursuing, but we'll see.
Yep. All right, buddy. Thank you for this. Have a great week. Catch up next Thursday.
Always a pleasure, guys.